Good afternoon on what is a grey, overcast but mild day. It is Friday the 19th of November. I'm back in the reading nook with some parcels and of course a nice hot cup of tea. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to unbox is this. So let's find out what this is. No, that hasn't worked. Let's try and get hold of it. There we go. Okay, and what I have got is this Dungeon Module X1, the Isle of Dread, for Dungeons and Dragons Expert Set. I am told this is a special introductory, okay, Wilderness module, and this would have been the first time that Dungeons and Dragons TSR put out a Wilderness module. It's for characters, for Wilderness Adventure for characters levels 3 to 7, written by David Cook and Tom Mulvey, and it's best known as being the scenario that came in the expert set and introduced sort of players. Essentially, if the basic set did dungeon adventures, the experts opened up into the wilderness. This adventure is 40 years old, and specifically I'm told that this is a first printing, which is why I grabbed it off eBay. In very nice condition it is too, and this has more recently this has been reprinted and updated for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition by Goodman Games in their original scenarios reincarnated series. I recommend you go and grab this. Not necessarily, I mean, go and find one of these and look at it and see what it's like, but you'll find a copy of that in there. I wanted specifically a copy which I could review and basically do an unboxing of. So what have we got in here? I mean, this is famously a sort of slightly pulpy adventure, or at least as pulpy as Dungeons & Dragons could ever get back in 1981. And the adventure itself is based, sort of like inspired by Skull Island of King Kong fame, because of sort of like the 1930s 33 version. So what we've got is a big wilderness adventure that the players really don't know about. So let's have a look, see if there's anything. Okay, it really doesn't say very much in here for the players to get them involved, but essentially you've got a guide to the setting, the map of the continent, map C1. Where is that? See if I can find that. Well, there's the map of the Isle of Dread. Oh, spoilers after 40 years. And you have general locations like the general cave layer, well, here's the continent. There we go. And this would eventually would become the known world, I believe. I'm sure I will be corrected if I'm wrong. But Skull Island, basically, the players would be setting out sail to explore, and they would basically make their way down into the distant ocean down here. And I have to be honest that I don't remember. We've got a pirate layer and other locations as well. So there's the pirate layer. I don't remember being particularly impressed by this when I bought it. We've got plantations and the map of the Central Plateau. The village of Mantro, that all can be encountered when I bought it back in the day, because I wanted a dungeon and sort of like didn't want to mess around with this. But you know, how foolish can you? The folly of youth, as they say. But what we have in here is so here we go. Here's the background. Just read this. Basically, quite small text, and I'm getting old. Background: the Isle of Dread. Several weeks ago, the party of adventurers was returning from a previous adventure. The dungeon can work out what that is, and they discovered a cache of scroll papers. The scroll paper was made of excellent vellum parchment, a kind of parchment that lasts for centuries. On the journey home, the characters were caught in a sudden rainstorm, and the entire cache was drenched. Upon the party's return to Specularum, it was found that none of them were magical. Still, magic users can use good paper for spell research and writing their spellbooks, so the characters carefully spread the paper out in front of a fire to dry out. Much to their surprise, the paper dried out, revealing a writing that appeared on the pages. The heat had brought out secret writing on the parchment. The page was a part of a ship's log and read as follows: when the gale finally ended, we found ourselves approximately 7 days normal sailing distance south out of Specularum in the Thangothios archipelago. We replenished our supplies and patched up the ship and traded our remaining goods at native villages along the shores of several islands. Some villagers were friendly, others were hostile, and the natives attacked on sight. I suspect the hostile villages were filled with cannibals. And essentially the villagers, it goes on to essentially tell the how essentially there's an ancient city in the central highland which is built by the same people who built the wall, the sort of like basically which cuts off a peninsula from the rest of the island, and the villagers call the builders the gods, and so on. So it's you've got that kind of Lost World pulpy feel to it, there is that is only enforced by the fact that essentially you have dinosaurs in there, because essentially you're thinking about Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World, a story starring Professor Challenger, for example. So essentially you would think about this as sort of like, you could easily reskin this as sort of like a pulpy adventure, with pulp characters if you really wanted to. Perfect for something like Hollow Earth Expedition, for example. But I mean, the pulp role-playing game of your choice, or you could basically look at doing it. If you wanted to do sort of like a more pulpy fantasy, then you would look at something like, I would suggest, Swords and Sorcery role-playing game. So we've got maps of the Isle of Dread, and we have encounter tables, because essentially one of the things you do need in the wilderness adventure is definitely encounter tables, because there's going to be lots of wandering monsters, more so than probably in a dungeon, because the terrain is going to be more conducive to wandering creatures. And when we have the Island Mail Island encounter areas like the village of Terranoia, and Jaws from the Deep, Pirates Camp, and so on. The Iranian layers, very spider-like there. So yeah, I haven't. I think the truth is, I've not really looked at this in a very long time, and it is 40 years old. That's exactly what I wanted to copy. I wanted to review it, because I reviewed all of the B1 In Search of the Unknown and B2 Keep on the Borderlands. I reviewed those two scenarios, and then I went through and I followed all the tracks of like how influential those scenarios were, and how they've been essentially explored again and again in different formats, or their format has been used over and over throughout gaming history, and it's quite a lot. And I suspect it's going to be the same with Isle of Dread. There are, for example, there's Monkey Island for for Basic Fantasy, which does this, and of course there's the Adventures Reincarnated from Goodman Games. But okay, so we have the actual village of Terranoia map there, and there we have the actual map of, again, the map of the Isle of Dread. I'm presuming that this is the little peninsula down, which is with the wall across it, and then we've got the plateau up there where the player character's got to get. So if you're ever going to play this, don't watch this video. The spoilers ahead, or too late. and individual locations again, pirate layers, and the Recasta's cap, the Ariana layers. Yeah. And then Taboo Island, you know, as in you shouldn't go there. And then, so you've got multiple levels of this. Like you've got temples, and so this is presumably this complex here, this temple complex, the Taboo Island, and then the actual island. It's so. Before we get down to, so basically a dungeon, and we've got new monsters in there as well. So that is X1 in there, and then we've got the actual handout at the back there. Probably one of the first. I'm wondering whether that's one of the first Dungeons and Dragons scenarios that actually came out with a handout. Certainly one, and then a map of what basically the coast of the Isle of Dread, which the players could actually see as they sailed around. So yeah, X1, the Isle of Dread, which I will be interested to reread again after 40 years. Before I put it back on the shelf, I wonder whether I'm going to explore it or run it. Because you know there are options with something like this. It's still very accessible, still very playable. Whether that's with the retro clone of your choice, the obvious ones, Labyrinth Lord, for example, or what's it called, or Old School Essentials would all do this very well if you're not using the 5th edition version. So anyway, X1, the Isle of Dread, available on eBay, or if you if you basically or the Ring, or for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for Good Games. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching another unboxing here in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you taking the time to post those, and I do read them and respond. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me with a parcel and a game, and of course a nice hot cup of tea, all accompanied, of course, all sometimes accompanied by a cat, and I basically chat about this to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so. Then please do hit that subscribe button. So in the meantime, thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.